Same brands, different timelines. Mandela effects in corporate logos, packaging, and product spelling. Welcome back. I'm Adeline Atlas. In today's video, we're going to look at one of the most consistent and unsettling categories of Mandela effects: global brand memory shifts. These are not vague pop culture changes or fuzzy movie lines. These are real, tangible consumer products, brands you've bought, worn, and interacted with for decades. You've seen their logos, you've read their packaging, and you probably think you remember exactly how they looked. But what if you don't? Even more concerning, what if you do, but the timeline doesn't agree with you anymore? What we're about to explore isn't isolated. It's a growing list of products that millions remember differently. Spellings that no longer match, logos that feel off, taglines and visual symbols that simply aren't where you left them. And when people speak up about it, they're dismissed, told they're confused, forgetful, or imagining things. But the problem is, they're not alone. Entire generations remember the same wrong version, and that points to something much bigger than coincidence. Berenstain Bears versus Berenstain Bears. Let's begin with one of the most iconic Mandela effects to ever surface, one that essentially named the phenomenon for an entire generation: the Berenstain Bears. If you were a child growing up in the 1980s or 1990s, you almost certainly had one of these books on your shelf. You probably read it at bedtime or saw it on a classroom bookshelf. And if you try to spell it from memory, you're likely to write Berenstain with an EIN ending. But go look now. Today, it's spelled Berenstain with an AIN. According to every publisher, library archive, and ISBN database, it was never Stein. There are no records of the spelling ever being any different. And yet, hundreds of thousands of people disagree. This isn't a minor error. This is the title of the series, the core identifying feature of the brand. And the disagreement is so widespread that it launched the very term Mandela effect. People have found old VHS tapes, book covers, and even school reading lists that reflect the Stein spelling. Others claim to have had this version in their hands. The counter-argument is that this was a misreading, a case of the human brain substituting the more familiar Stein ending because of names like Einstein or Frankenstein. But that doesn't explain why entire families remember it that way, or why old copies have turned up showing the alternative spelling. This is more than false memory. It suggests two timelines, one with Berenstain and one with Berenstain, and some of us switch somewhere along the way. Whiteout or whiteout. Next up is the correction fluid you probably used all through school. Whiteout. Or was it? If you try to find it today, you'll discover the brand is officially called Whiteout, spelled with no H. The packaging reflects this. The trademarks reflect this. And according to the company, it has always been spelled this way. But here's the problem. Millions remember it differently. They're not just guessing. They used the product. They read the label. Teachers handed it out. Parents bought it. And they remember whiteout, as in white correction fluid. Not whiteout, a word that doesn't follow standard spelling conventions. This pattern of unexpected misspellings repeats across other household brands, and it's becoming harder to ignore. Febreze, Looney Tunes, Oscar Mayer, the spelling collapse. Let's take a look at a cluster of these consumer product changes that share a common theme: spelling shifts that conflict with logic, memory, and pronunciation. We'll begin with Febreze, the air freshener brand. You probably remember it as Febreze, with two E's. That's how it sounded. That's how it made sense. Breeze is part of the branding. Yet today, the label reads Febreze, with just one E. All marketing materials, old and new, reflect this. According to the company, it's always been that way. But again, mass memory disagrees. Now let's turn to Looney Tunes. You may remember it as Looney Tunes, as in cartoons. That would make sense, given the medium. But today, it's tunes, implying music, not animation. Why would a cartoon show brand itself around music instead of visual animation? The mismatch doesn't just confuse, it doesn't align with logic. And the fact that so many people recall the tunes spelling only deepens the inconsistency. Then there's Oscar Mayer, the hot dog brand with a famous jingle. My bologna has a first name. Most people remember it spelled M-E-Y-E-R. Yet today, it's Mayer, with an A. Again, it's not just the logo that changed. People remember singing the jingle with the alternative spelling. When you start grouping these changes together, a troubling trend appears. People across age groups and regions remember the same incorrect versions, and those versions happen to align with logic, phonetics, and consumer experience. So why are they all now incorrect? Skechers or Skechers? Let's move into fashion. Skechers is a popular shoe brand. Except, for many people, it's always been spelled Skechers, with a T. This one hits a little harder because the word sketch is part of the common English vocabulary. It feels natural. The idea of Skechers, as in those who draw, design, or sketch, makes sense. But today, it's spelled Skechers. No T, no explanation. Even people who worked in mall stores or sold the product remember writing it with a T. There are images of old advertisements, magazine print copies, and online references that still use Skechers. And if you try searching for it today, you'll still get millions of hits under the wrong spelling. This isn't misspelling. It's residue. Evidence left behind from a version of reality that no longer matches the current one. Fruit of the loom. The missing cornucopia. Possibly one of the most bizarre and upsetting visual Mandela effects involves Fruit of the Loom. The logo you probably remember? A pile of fruit inside a cornucopia, a woven horn basket, often associated with Thanksgiving. It was part of the brand's identity. Children drew it in school. Adults saw it on clothing tags. It was everywhere. Except now, the cornucopia is gone. Not changed. Completely erased. The official company history says it was never there. Current and historical logos show only fruit, no basket, no horn. Yet thousands of people are absolutely certain it was there. And again, you can find old ad art, parody sketches, and costume references that still include the missing element. How do you erase a visual object from the collective memory of millions of consumers and have no record of it? Monopoly Man's missing monocle. The Monopoly Man, aka Rich Uncle Pennybags, is remembered wearing a top hat, cane, and monocle. But according to Hasbro, he never wore one. Not ever. Except he did. At least, that's what nearly everyone remembers. You can find countless Halloween costumes, parodies, cartoons, and sketches that include the monocle. Jim Carrey referenced it in Ace Ventura. People use it as shorthand for wealthy old man in pop culture. And yet, the source character now wears no monocle. Are we dealing with a mass hallucination? Or is it more plausible that an alternate version of this character existed, one that has been phased out or overwritten? Ford logo. The swirl that wasn't lastly, we come to the Ford logo. Go look at it right now. There's a small curl, almost a decorative loop, on the F that connects the crossbar with the vertical. It's subtle, but unmistakable. Now ask yourself, did you ever notice that before? Most people say no. They've driven Fords for decades. They've seen the logo on keys, dashboards, and commercials. And yet, that loop looks completely unfamiliar. Ford claims this has always been part of the logo. But the reaction from longtime brand loyalists suggests otherwise. If this change were just visual design evolution, there would be an archive of logo updates. But there isn't. It's as if the loop was always there, except it wasn't. This isn't a case of people forgetting. It's a case of people remembering inconveniently well. The Mandela effect, when applied to brands, strikes a nerve because brands are constant. We interact with them daily. Their repetition burns them into memory. So when brand names, logos, and slogans shift, and the record doesn't support your memory, you're left with only two possibilities. You, and millions of others, have identical false memories. Or reality is not as fixed as we were taught. You don't need to believe in timelines or quantum physics to acknowledge this is happening. All you need is to remember what you saw, and compare it to what exists now. Because if even the brands are different, maybe it's not just the world that changed. Maybe we did too. Hi, I'm Adeline Atlas, 11x published author, and what you just watched was only a taste of what's inside the Truth series, where we go all the way down the rabbit hole. If you're the kind of person who's always asking bigger questions, who knows there's more to this world than what we've been told, then this is your invitation to the series that was built for you. Inside the Truth series, you'll get full access to 6 mind-blowing sub-series designed to wake up your highest intelligence and decode the matrix we live in. 1. Locate the truth. Learn how to actually research. Not just what to search, but how to verify, cross-reference, read declassified files, and protect your own mind from weaponized misinformation. This is truth-seeking, decoded. 2. The Mandela effect. Are we shifting timelines? Why do so many people remember a different past? We break down the most bizarre, undeniable examples of reality glitches and what they tell us about consciousness and control. 3. Law is magic. Law is not what you think it is. From word spells to maritime law and hidden contracts, we uncover how legal systems use language like a wand and how to stop being tricked by fine print that binds you without consent. 4. Entertainment or ritual. The Hollywood and music industries are not just for entertainment. From Super Bowl rituals to Grammy stage symbolism, we decode what's really being shown, who it serves, and why mass consciousness is the target. 5. Decoding dystopia. Ever wondered why dystopian fiction feels prophetic? In this subseries, we decode popular films and books, Hunger Games, 1984, Black Mirror, to reveal the hidden blueprints and predictive programming behind the plot. 6. MK Ultra plus mind control programs. This one gets deep. From real MK Ultra documents to modern symbolism in media, we expose how mind control operates in plain sight and how to free yourself from manipulation you didn't even know was happening. And that's just the beginning. If this resonated with you, click the links below and join us inside the Full Truth series, because the more you know, the harder you are to control. This is your awakening. We don't just ask questions, we find answers. Let's go all the way down the rabbit hole together.